Hello, everyone. Welcome back to 14 Days of Solitude. I'm Karina, and this is Vienna.
Hi guys.
We are here to teach you 14 coping mechanisms over 14 days so that you can build up your resiliency during times of crisis. So welcome back. Today is day 2, and today's focus is called Ask Bigger Questions.
Mhm.
So I don't know about you, Vienna, but yesterday when we were doing our breathing exercises, immediately one of my practices after I do a breathing exercise is to check in with myself with a question.
Mm.
So it was really hard for me yesterday to not just like want to give you guys the next step, but know that we are here to teach you strategies that you can string together, you can use together. So after you do a breathing exercise, that's the time where you're most present, you're most clear headed. So that's the time you want to ask a question, because when you ask a question from a clear head, your answer just kind of pops up like a buoy rising to the surface, as I like to say, versus trying to ask a question when there's like a lot of like, I think of a rainstorm, there's a lot of waves crashing. It's kind of like, wait, what's my fear? What's my ego? And what's my intuition? What's my inner guidance trying to answer me? So today we want to invite you to ask bigger questions. Vienna, do you want to talk a little bit about what the difference between like a small question is versus a bigger question?
Sure. And that was beautifully put. I just want to add because it's so important, like you said, to string this together with what we've been doing with breathing. So you have that clear head and you're more likely to ask bigger questions when you have that clearer state of mind rather than asking them while you're in a state of stress or anxiety. Um, so asking a smaller question can be, again, when we're in a state of stress, when we're kind of asking things like, why me? When it's more negative, when we're feeling blah, like,
Small. Like,
yeah.
I feel like when I ask a small question, after I ask the question, I just immediately feel like contractive and
Yep.
just like I like shriveled up,
Yes.
versus a bigger question, which we're gonna share as questions that promote resiliency. To me, feels like open and expansive, and it's not like a yes or no type question. It's more of like, I wonder what the answer is gonna be, because it's gonna be different every time you ask it.
Mm.
So let's dive right in. We have 7 anxiety provoking questions, and then 6, because one of them will account for 2 questions that promote resiliency. And we're going to give you back and forth, if you ask this question in your head, typically what the better question to ask is. Okay, so I recommend you guys get out a piece of paper, write these questions down. You might forget them. I have them listed on my phone so that when I'm feeling anxious, I pull up these resiliency questions and like, okay, which question do I need right now? So, and I do this all the time. But when you're anxious and you're not in the right headspace, it's really hard sometimes to remember certain things. So let's jump right into the first one, of one of our anxiety provoking questions. The first one is, what's wrong with me? Blah. What's wrong with me? Especially highly sensitive people, or people just who feel things deeply, people who just constantly feel like, um, their whole life they struggled with people in hard situations. Anything you want to share about that, Vienna?
Yep. So this is a very, very common unhelpful question that a lot of clients of mine ask, and just friends when they're stressed or going through a hard time. They're putting a lot of pressure on themselves and it's like, what's wrong with me? That's not a great question. How would you feel if another person, let's say you made a mistake, which humans do. How would you feel if another person said, what's wrong with you? That's awful. Like, you just wanna curl up and ball. It's just not a helpful question to be asking ourselves.
That's right. So, what is more helpful? Okay, what is a question that is going to help promote resiliency? Is the question you want to ask instead is, what do I need right now? What do I need right now?
Mhm.
So, this question helps you come back to this moment, and it helps you come back to yourself. So, if something is wrong with you right now, whether you're emotionally overwhelmed, you're overstimulated, you're stressed, maybe you're just bored, um, what's wrong with me, right? How many times do you ask yourself, what's wrong with me? And like you're bored. I know I have. So instead, you check in with yourself. You say, what do I need right now? And then it's like scanning, scanning, scanning. Like your a deeper subconscious part of you will scan, what do you need right now? And it'll go through the basics. It might go through the basics of like, oh, I should shower. Or, oh, it's time for lunch. Maybe that's why I'm kind of moody and my blood sugar is low. Or I really need to talk to someone right now. So don't be attached to what the answer is. Just let that answer come up and then go do it.
Right. I have a pretty key example that I just want to chime in with.
Mm.
So, for example, when we might be in a rush or overwhelmed, we might forget things. This happens to me sometimes where I'm in a rush, I'm running around, I have a lot on my mind, and I lock myself out of my apartment. What's one of the first things I say? What is wrong with me? I'm so mad at myself. So reframing that to what do I need right now? Well, first I need to call a locksmith. And then second, maybe I need to start practicing slowing down and being more mindful and drinking a sip of water. So there's a key example of how that would help.
Yes, very good. And I can relate to being so scattered. My mom used to call it La La Land. She's like, you're always in La La Land.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. All right, let's go to number two. How about you go with the next one?
Sure. So the next question is either why me or why does this always happen to me? So kind of, feeling sorry for ourselves in the moment, but again, just not a productive question. So we can reframe that by instead saying, how can I view this differently?
Yeah.
So,
I know for me, I mostly ask this question of like, why did this happen to me when I'm sick?
mm, hmm
Like, oh my God, like, why me?
right.
Right? So
Mhm.
some people will get the flu, right? Some people will get this virus that's going around. Some people will get a cold. Some people's allergies will kick up. Mine allergies were starting to kick, and I was like, oh no. But it's like, why does this always happen to me? Why me?
Mm,
And instead, yeah, how can I see this differently? Yeah, how can I see this differently? Use your creative, deep thinking skills um, to open up the perspective. I always like to think of it as like, you know, why does this always happen to me? It's like looking out through a peephole. You're like trying to see through this tiny hole. What's wrong with me? Versus like open the door and then you'll see how can I see this differently? And there's so many more things
mm,
to take in from so much more information to work with.
yes, absolutely. So I'll do the next one as well. Another thing similar to what's wrong with me is why am I like this? This happens a lot with my people, my clients who have anxiety disorders, or um, tend to be very hard on themselves. Why am I like this? So again, not a helpful, not a kind question to be asking yourselves. So instead, why don't we reframe and look at the positives? Um, what am I good at, and how can I use those skills right now? Especially, how can I use those skills right now to serve others?
Mm.
So, not only are we instead, why am I like this? You're focusing on maybe a negative aspect about yourself or something that you'd like to improve on. We're going to reframe that and say, what am I good at? What are my strengths? And how can I use that to especially help others? Because that makes us feel really, really good. It helps me feel good when I'm helping others.
Yeah, for sure. It helps shift the perspective on being of service versus being like a victim. Oh no.
Yes, love that.
Yeah. All right. Next one is number four. What if this never ends? So I know people that I've worked with who experience depression. That is a common one. I know when I was going through a really dark period, you think that when you're in a dark period or when you're sick or whatever, you feel like it's never going to end. You feel like it's literally going to be like this forever. But chances are it's a season and it's going to shift and everything's going to be very okay soon, right? Nothing stays forever. And that is the one thing we can count on is that we live in a world of constant change and flux. So something is going to shift, the winds are going to blow again. And so in that sense, I always have this mantra in my head that like everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay because It is, because I count on the fact that change is constant. So, what if this never ends? Okay. And then the question to ask yourself instead is, what is my next step? Okay. So, just like the first one of what do I need right now, this is another one, but said in a different way.
Mm,
What is my next step? Okay. Again, it brings you back to the present, brings you back to the moment, to your body, to your environment, your space. Oh, my plants are dying. Why don't I water my plants, right? What's being neglected right now? What is my next step? What is my next step? That's it. Oh, just what is the next step? And then once you go do it, what is my next step again? Especially if you get caught in your head consistently, use that word often until you get into a flow, and then you start to feel more grounded and more at ease again.
mm, absolutely. And another question I think I would add to that the negative question of what if this never ends? What would this look like if it all worked out? What would this look like when and if it does end? So kind of
Mhm.
like visualizing the positive results, you know, or a
Yeah.
better outcome. Hmm.
Yep. So yeah, so one of the anxiety questions, let's bring more of those in related to that one.
Sure.
We have two there. How come I can never? Which you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Again, not a productive question. How come I can never? You're setting yourself up for failure already. How come I can never fill in the blank? How come I can never get ahead? How come I can never lose weight? Whatever it is. Not a great way of wording that question.
Yeah.
Um,
It's like I saw someone, they're like, of course, the moment I decide to like get on Match.com, all this happens, and it's like, great, now I can't go on dates. How come can never find my love? Or how
yes.
can you know what I mean? It shows is an interesting example that, you know, what if you're starting a business, buying a business, how come I can never, like, I finally am ready to do this thing that I've been talking about for years, and how come everything always keeps getting in my way and I can never get ahead? Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Mhm.
But then the next one with that, so how come I can never? And then the other one that goes with this one is what if, worst case scenario. Okay. What if dot 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 worst case scenario. So what if this never stops? What if I what if I can't, like, what if I start this business and I can't pay my employees? What if they don't give us disaster relief compensation? What if I or someone I know gets the virus and we're sick? Like, what's going to happen to my family? How are we going to pay our mortgage? Like, every worst case scenario that you can think of right now that's going to be anxiety producing. This is all the what if questions that aren't productive. So then when we bring in the question, the resiliency question that Vienna shared, the question is, what might this look like if it all worked out?
Mm,
What might this look like if all worked out, right? Instead of the, I can never get ahead, or what if, blah, blah, blah. It's like, how might this look like if it all worked out? Use your highly sensitive, deep thinking skills to be creative, to think of like positive solutions, right? And that is going to help you create a plan. That is going to help you create a path through the darkness.
right. Yep. And again, what is my next step? What is my next logical step right here, right now?
Yeah, for sure. Coming back to the moment, right? What might this look like if it worked out? And then what is my next step? So use a lot of these questions together. These are going to be really, really good questions that you can use back to back. All right, and let's go into the last one. Last one.
The last one is what if I can't handle all of this? Um, so, again, same thing, trying to make this more productive. What if I can't handle all of this? Bringing it back to the present. What am I feeling right now?
Okay. Instead
Mm,
of asking, what if I can't handle this? You ask instead, what am I feeling right now? Like Deanna said, it brings you back to the present, back to your body. And because to me, what if I can't handle it is all up here, anxiety in the mind, right? Versus asking yourself a question, you come back to the body and you're like scanning. What am I feeling? What am I feeling? Because when you address a feeling, right, Vienna, isn't that like counseling 101, like when you let yourself acknowledge a feeling, then it starts to dissipate. And especially when you can have someone um, observe and acknowledge that feeling for you, with you, that's what helps move the emotion.
Exactly. Hmm.
Yeah, wonderful. All right, so I'm gonna put these questions on a document for you guys, a little PDF, so that you have them as a resource. We can also, we'll post them in our Instagram, Facebook groups, and we recommend using these questions. Okay, and if you know, let us know how they go. Okay, let us know that, like, wow, I was feeling anxiety for days, and this is what I was thinking, and this is the question I was saying, and then I used this question, and this is the answer I got. Let's talk about that. Tell us. We want to hear how you guys are using these strategies. I will share my own examples because these are things I use every day, multiple times a day. Asking bigger questions is one of my most powerful practices I use with my clients. And the better we can ask questions, the more resilient we'll be. That's for sure.
Right. And the more you practice this, the more likely you'll have habits of asking yourself more productive, more effective questions.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thank you, Vienna. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you guys for watching. That concludes day 2, Ask Bigger Questions. We'll see you tomorrow with day number 3. All
All
right.
right. Bye,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Thank you.